Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about a Turner syndrome fact. Today I want to talk more in-depthly about how common Turner syndrome is. So before we go any farther, let's see what Google says. How common is Turner syndrome?
Sorry, I don't know how to help with that. Here are other things you can try.
So in trying Google on my phone, we get a lot more interesting results. Let's look at some of these. The first one is the condition occurs in about 1 in 2,500 female births worldwide, but is much more common among pregnancies that do not survive to term. So that kind of starts us off looking at the two different variations of how common it is that I want to talk about and go more in depth about today. And that's that there's a difference between how many cases occur and how many women are alive with it today. So there's another result that's under the people also ask part that says what percent of the population has Turner syndrome. And that says Turner syndrome occurs in between 1 in 2,000 and 1 in 5,000 females at birth. Approximately 99% of fetuses with Turner syndrome spontaneously terminate during the first trimester. So that's where we get the 1% and 2% statistics. There is 2% of pregnancies that occur with Turner syndrome. 1% of those pregnancies make it to a live birth. And then as you get older, those statistics change also. So this is why I feel like it's a really hard number to actually put a statistic on, because we don't know how many pregnancies occur with it accurately, because so many of the pregnancies can end in miscarriage before they're ever diagnosed with Turner syndrome, and we know that that was the situation. And then there are so many other cases of Turner syndrome that we do have diagnosed prenatally, but that don't make it to a live birth to be counted in that number for us to know how often this occurs. The statistics for how common Turner syndrome is something that we use a lot to talk about the 1%, the 2%. We are the 1% that survived. And I think in that scenario, it can feel really, really both comforting and like mind-blowing to realize how small of a percentage that really is. And that can feel really big, like a really big weight of importance on us being here. And instead of feeling it as a weight, I want to encourage you to embrace that. You have a purpose. You have a reason. And there is no statistic for how common this is that's going to change that. As more cases are diagnosed, these numbers may shift. They may change. We could have totally different numbers if we get more accurate counts of things and are able to adjust. But understanding that we are that 1% and that that's really special is not a bad thing. So I wanted to look at the difference because I feel like that's really important. This is the basis for why we have statistics that are skewed. You see it in these statistics for how common Turner syndrome is, because even those are based off of only what we know, and what we know is limited. What I mean by that is we don't have all of the pregnancies that are Turner syndrome diagnosed, right? Like I mentioned, we don't know how many more pregnancies that end in miscarriage before they're ever diagnosed there are, and that could change things drastically. This also contributes to, I feel like, why we don't know what causes Turner syndrome, because we have not gotten enough information to pinpoint anything. There's been a ton of research into it, but no answers solidified as to what causes Turner syndrome. And the statistics for how common it is really explain why, because we have such little information to go off of to know so many other things, including what causes Turner syndrome and accurate statistics for all of the different symptoms and how common they are in girls with Turner syndrome. And I feel like that's important to have in context. I like having the statistics. I like knowing the 1%, the 2%, that's really helpful and interesting, but at the same time, all of the statistics I take with a grain of salt because of this. And I don't want to discount what numbers we have for how common it is. I think to some extent it is as accurate as it can be. In general, it's a great number to have. It's helpful. I also think it's hard to pinpoint. Those are the statistics we do have for how common Turner syndrome is, right? It's 2% of pregnancies, 1% of live births, and 1 in every 2,500 pregnancies have Turner syndrome. That feels really big. That number does not feel as small as you might expect, because there's a whole lot of people in the world, right? There's a whole lot of people in the world. There's a whole lot of people in this country if you're looking at just the United States. And that's a not insignificant number for how often this actually does occur. It can feel like some really rare unknown thing, but it's almost like the 6 degrees of separation. While that feels like it should be a big number, right? Like, we're not running into others that have this on the street all the time. We also don't always know who we know that has it or knows somebody else that has it. And I really experienced this with a family friend. I was watching their house while they were on vacation, and their neighbor had Turner syndrome. And she'd seen me over the time period I was watching their house go, in and out of the house, getting in and out of my car. And she asked my family friend when they got back, hey, does she have Turner syndrome? And my family friend knew that I did and was very taken aback and surprised. And she said, yeah, how did you know? And she said, oh, I could kind of just tell by looking at her. I have it. My family friend didn't even know that her neighbor had it, but she had it. It is really, really interesting to hear that statistic and then think about, I may not even know who I know that has it, or who I know may not know that I'm not the only person they know that has it. Was that confusing? That might have been really confusing. I hope you get what I mean. It can feel really like you're speaking out into the void of, it's such a small pool of people that are going to understand what this is and what this experience is like. And that's, I feel like, a lot of the reason we focus on how common is it is because we're a tribe, right? Like, butterflies are strong. Butterflies are fighters. And we come together and support each other in all of these different ways, in groups, in so many different ways online, and have these conferences and walks, and it's an amazing community. I would encourage you to say, I feel like we are just at the beginning of our understanding of Turner syndrome in general. And I feel like one of the ways things will shift that will kickstart a whole bunch of research is those numbers of how common it is. And that's really exciting. So this felt a little bit rambly and all over the place. This felt a little bit like off the cuff, but I thought this was an important topic. I have not actually talked about in depth what those numbers actually mean and how to interpret them, or my thoughts on interpreting them. And I feel like it's important to think about because it's a huge, huge foundation for all of the other statistics and information that we have. And it really shows where we're at with that. And that we are just at the starting and we have so much to go. So I hope this was helpful in understanding those numbers. I hope this was encouraging and helped you in some way. I will put the other videos I've done talking about kind of how common it is and the statistics surrounding Turner syndrome in general in a playlist for you if you want to check that out. If you're interested in more Turner syndrome topics, I talk about Turner syndrome all the time on my channel, and I would love to have you hang out. So click subscribe. If you enjoyed this video and it helped you, give it a thumbs up. Make sure notifications are on so you see when the next video goes live. And I would love to hear your thoughts on the commonality of Turner syndrome in the comments below. What do you think about how common it is and the statistics we have? Let me know. I will see you guys in those videos.